What's going on, y'all? My name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're breaking out the Ancestry Anthology once again. I cannot believe I slept on this book for as long as I did, but breaking out Battle Zoo Ancestries. So I heard you want to play a dragon. Seriously, this book is really fucking good. If you're liking what you're seeing, like, subscribe, ding the bell. You know what it is. Stay caught up on all your stuff. For now, let's dive in. Okie dokie. So on planet Earth, dragons, they're kinda everywhere. Look up every mythology of every continent. A lot of them will look very different. Some of them will be a little more avian or reptilian or bestial or serpentine. They have dominated our stories for, like, as long as we as humans have been telling them, so it's no surprise the role-playing game that Pathfinder is derivative of has one in the title, and in fact, in Dungeons & Dragons, they've been with us since the beginning, on the fucking title of the thing. Wowie, who'da thunk it? In case you somehow missed the memo, dragons are almost always portrayed in tabletop role-playing games as the apex predator of wherever it is they live, with certain qualities or innate abilities that help them dominate the terrain around them, whether for good or ill, then amass a bunch of treasure and live forever and ever doing that thing that it is they do. And the longer they live, typically the bigger and stronger they get. Now, having come to the tabletop role-playing world from 3.5, I'm no stranger to taking the stat block of, like, wormling dragons and then rolling them way down in hit dice to make something that is PC accessible. If one asks the Battle Zoo folks, is to perform a ritual known as the Lux Eterna. The ritual, in short, strips a lot of the innate magical power that a dragon has, such as its ability to fly as fast as they can despite their immense size, the innate spellcasting ability to deflect grievous blows with scales, and their literal bulk, changing the dragon's body and replacing those powerful abilities that would take a very long time in the dragon's life to mature, in such a way that those pathways become a little faster, become a little more efficient, allow dragons to accept a sizable debuff for a greater long-term reward, which is a very meta way to say, take the thing that exists, boil it down to about PC sizing capabilities, and then let it gain its abilities through ancestry feats over time, such that by the time your dragon barbarian, we'll say, goes toe-to-toe with a dragon of its probably much larger size, who's got about 500 odd years of life experiences on them, the pair can stand on an equal footing. Presumably, this also means as that dragon continues to age, on top of the copious amount of class levels they would have gained, you then stack on more dragon stuff. It's a really interesting take on taking the monster stat block and then turning it into something that can be played at the table without having to do a lot of work to balance it. I like this so much more than, like, all of the undead archetypes that are present in Book of the Dead, for example. So many of those just feel like they're so backwatered down for no reason. Just a little bit of explanation on all of them as to, like, yeah, no, you got this thing. You're slowly working out how it works, but it's going to be a long and bumpy road. It makes all the difference. But mechanically, as you might guess, a Lux Eterna dragon is a rare ancestry. Whack. They begin play with 8 hit points. They are small or medium creatures with a speed of 25 feet. They receive ability boosts to strength or another option depending on their heritage, and 1 freebie with no drawback. They begin play speaking Common, Draconic, and a bunch of extra languages if they have positive int. They've got Dark Vision, the Dragon trait, and the Jaws unarmed attack that does 1d4 piercing damage, and a Claw unarmed attack that does 1d4 slashing damage with the Agile and Finesse traits. Additionally, Eternal Dragons mostly look like the standard issue dragon of their kind. They're considerably smaller, about as big as an orc, so you're thinking like 6-7 feet-ish. Additionally, there might be other telltale signs, scales that very slightly reflect the new magical flow, and that of course paves the way for other changes you might want to make to your Eternal Dragon to make it literally your own. For our heritages, there are just so many. More than one video can cover every dragon that has been printed in 2nd edition, every dragon that has been printed in 1st edition, and several brand new ones as well. Each of these gives you access to a bunch of different feats and archetype choices down the road. For the sake of time, we'll choose the one for which this channel is named the Black Dragon. Gains a swim speed of 10 feet and the amphibious trait. The damage type associated with its breath weapon is acid, its breath shape is a line. It has the potential to choose tail or horn unarmed attacks. It can choose wisdom instead of strength for its free first ancestry boost, and its spells are arcane. There are also a billion ancestry feats in this book. Some of them are locked to specific dragon types, of course, so we're only going to talk about the ones that strictly can be applied to a black dragon or any dragon. First, additional unarmed attack. Gives you either a horn attack that does 1d4 piercing damage with the deadly d6 and finesse traits, a tail unarmed attack that does 1d4 bludgeoning damage with the finesse, sweep, and trip traits, a wing that does 1d4 with backswing, finesse, and shove. You can pick this multiple times to get more unarmed attacks as you level. For us, again, it's horns and tails. Change shape for one action allows us to take on a humanoid guise, that being a specific form of a common small or medium humanoid ancestry, which is distinctive and unique, and you become them every time you polymorph, sort of like a kitsune. Additionally, if you'd like to begin with this, you can have low light vision instead of dark vision. Another interesting take on the give and take of power for an immediate growth. It becomes a lot easier to fit in with society if you don't look like that thing that society is expecting to burn their homes and take their gold. Draconic Cantrip gives us a cantrip from the spell list corresponding to the tradition indicated in our heritage, which can be cast as an innate spell. Draconic Resistance gives us resistance equal to half our level, a minimum of 1 to, in our case, acid. Dragon Breath out the gate for 2 actions gives us a 30-foot line breath weapon that deals, in our case, 2d4 acid damage. Until level 3, this is a once per 10 minutes thing. At level 3, you can use it every 1d4 rounds. The damage ticks up by 1d4 at 5th level and every 2 levels thereafter. Dragon Lore gets us trained in Arcana and Intimidation, plus, Dragon Lore, unless you would automatically be trained from those from something else. Empower Scales gives you a +1 item bonus to your AC and a dex cap of 4, and the trained proficiency in your scales as if they were a unique sort of armor, not using armor or unarmored proficiencies. From level 7 on, you can use your unarmored proficiency if it's better. You can also inscribe fundamental and property runes directly into your scales. You can affix talismans to them, but if you wear armor, they don't function, of course. Empower Wings gives us the ability to, when leaping horizontally, move an additional 5 feet, and when long jumping, move up to 10 feet farther. The ritual that we did has taken a lot of our magic away from us, including our magical ability to fly. Again, I think balancing flying in the grand scheme of things is a really easy thing to do. You can follow this card right up here. I literally am GMing for a magma dragon in Quest for the Frozen Flame right now, and she has her fly speed, and it's been totally fine. Horde Hauler gives you the trained proficiency in athletics and the hefty hauler skill feat because you can't go anywhere without literally all your stuff. Reptile Speaker lets us ask questions of, receive answers from, and use diplomacy with animals that are reptiles. And then lastly, for the level 1 feats, there are so many. Sturdy Scales makes your scales akin to a suit of medium armor in the plate armor group that give you a +4 item bonus to AC with a dex cap of 1, a check penalty of 2, a speed penalty of 5 feet, and a strength value of 16. You can't take off your scales, that would probably hurt, but you also don't get fatigued for sleeping in your skin, so that's good. Moving on to the level 5 stuff, Reptile Speaker can upgrade to Animal Speaker at level 5, which lets you talk to all animals and get a +1 circumstance bonus to make an impression on animals. Draconic Pride once per hour. For 1 action, reduce your frightened condition by 1. For 1 minute, whenever you become frightened, reduce the frightened condition's value by 1. But should you critically fail a saving throw against a fear effect while this ability is active, the effect immediately ends and you increase the frightened condition you gain from critical failure by 1 instead of decreasing it. Pride indeed cometh before the fall. Draconic Verve gives you a +1 circumstance bonus to saves against effects that would cause the paralyzed condition and effects with a sleep trait that would cause you to fall asleep. Should you roll a success on your save against such an effect, you get a critical success instead. If an effect makes you fall asleep or gain the paralyzed condition for at least 2 rounds, you reduce its duration by 1. Dragon's Scent gives us imprecise scent. Who'd have thunk it? With a range of 30 feet. Once per day, Dragon's Endurance for 1 action gives you temporary hit points equal to twice your level that last for a round. And Horde Warder lets you cast Alarm once per day as an innate spell of your heritage's tradition. Super useful when everyone's coming to steal your stuff. With expert proficiency in acrobatics, practice flight. Whenever you have a fly speed, you gain a +5 foot status bonus to your fly speed, a +1 circumstance bonus on acrobatics checks to maneuver in flight. If you're a master, it goes to 10. Legendary gets 15. Soaring Leap once per day lets you jump 30 feet in any direction. If you don't land on solid ground, you fall after using your next action. Though if you have Empower Wings or Fly Speed, you can, arrest that fall by flaring your wings to kill your speed. And then at 9th level, Eternal Stride. For one action, gives you 2 actions once per day, which you can use to leap, stand, step, or stride. The movement happens so quickly that all anyone sees is a blur, and they can't act while you're moving, even to take free actions or reactions that would normally be triggered. That's really cool. Antipodal Duality plays with some of the archetypes in this feat, Draconic Ravager or Dragon Mage, giving you the dedication for whichever one you didn't already have, even if you couldn't qualify for something else right now. It's like half-elves, but with more dragon power. You knew you'd see it, and you'll love it when you do. For 2 actions once per day, Channel Wings gives you a fly speed equal to your speed for 10 minutes. Deep Breath. When you use Dragon Breath, you can choose to... If you do, your Dragon Breath deals twice as many d4s of damage and increases the area to a 60-foot line. If it was a 30-foot line, a 30-foot cone if it was 15, or a 10-foot burst within 60 feet if it was a 5-foot burst. Can't do this again for 1d4 times 10 minutes, but when you need it, it's there. And then for 2 actions, Dive and Exhale. You fly 15 feet straight up into the air, then fly in a straight line to an empty space of your choice on the ground within 60 feet, breathing around the spot where you land, which deals twice as many dive damage to everything within a 10-foot emanation of that space you slam down into. You have to be able to use your Dragon Breath to do this, and afterwards you can't use it again for an hour. Next, Draconic Haste lets you cast Haste once per day as an innate spell of your heritage's tradition. Once per hour, Draconic Hubris as a free action when you are about to attempt a saving throw that has a critical failure effect that is different from the failure effect. Roll twice, take the better. If you still fail, you get a critical failure. May the RNG ever be in your favor. Dragon's Instincts when you roll initiative using Perception, or roll with advantage. Wow, nice. Dragon's Tenacity increases your maximum HP by your level. During your daily prep, you gain temp HP equal to half your level, which lasts until your next daily prep. Nice. That's really cool. Earthbound lets you cast Earthbind once per day as an innate spell of your heritage's tradition, and Energized Jaws lets you deal 1d4 persistent damage with your bite when you critically hit of, in our case, acid damage. Horde Deposit once per day lets you, by spending 10 minutes concentrating on your mental image of your horde, transfer up to 3 bulk of non-living, non-magical objects, direct deposit into the bank very far away from stuff. That's super cool for a lot of games. How are we going to transport all this stuff? Don't worry, I got it. Sudden Growth lets you cast Enlarge on yourself as an innate spell once per hour. Man, there are just so many of these. I'm still blown away of flipping through just how many feats are here. To the level 13 feats we go. Channel Scales. If you took Empower Scales, gives you an item bonus of 3 on your scales, and the dex cap changes to 2. Corona of Power for 2 actions. Once per day for 1 minute, any creature that touches you or damages you with an unarmed attack or melee weapon without the reach trait takes 3d6, in our case again, acid damage. And also in our case, Corrupt Water. Once per day allows us to permanently befoul up to 10 cubic feet of liquid within 90 feet. That liquid becomes undrinkable and unable to support water-breathing life. You can attempt a counteract check to destroy each unattended liquid, magic, or alchemical item within the area, with a counteract level equal to half your level rounded up, and a counteract modifier equal to the higher of your class DC minus 10 or your spell DC minus 10. A creature within the area can attempt a will save. On a success, they protect all liquids in their possession, but on a failure, you can attempt to counteract the liquids in their possession the same way as unattended objects. You can't do this to corrupt someone's blood, but their potions, their mutagens. Take that, alchemists. Dragon's Flight gives us finally a fly speed equal to our speed, and more importantly, a very appreciative amount of flavor text that just makes sense for how big of a deal this is. I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you, whoever amongst the author list wrote that in. A+. Empowered Mass gives you a permanent enlarge, a +2 status bonus to melee damage or clumsy 1, and you increase your reach to 10 feet. Then Ethereal Hoard. You send all of your wealth deep into the ethereal plane where very few can find it. You can spend 1 minute to send your hoard, consisting of items with a total amount of bulk equal to your level, to the deepest reaches of the ethereal plane. You can dismiss the effect to return your entire hoard to where you are, though otherwise the effect is unlimited. The hoard can't contain creatures, time passes normally, the environmental effects of the ethereal plane apply to it. For 2 actions, Frightful Presence, man, you knew you'd see it. For 1 minute, you gain the Frightful Presence aura and a 20-foot emanation around you. Enemies who enter the aura, or who are in the aura when you activate it, must will save against your class or spell DC. On a critical success, they're unaffected. Success frightened 1, failure frightened 2, Critical failure, frightened, 4. Barf. I was asked to build a black dragon for min-maxing for fun and profit. I now know what I'm doing. Good lord. Hardened scales once per day for 10 minutes gives you resistance 10 against physical damage except for adamantine. Each time this resistance applies, the resistance decreases by 1 when it reaches 0. After reducing physical damage 10 times, it ends, so stone skin. Reflective Scales lets you cast Reflective Scales, the spell, once per day as an innate spell of your heritage's tradition. You knew you'd see it. Summon Draconic Servitor lets you once per day cast Summon Dragon as a 5th level innate spell of your tradition. Expanded Resistance gives you resistance 5 to every kind of resistance that you didn't already have, basically. Acid, cold, electricity, fire, force, mental, negative, poison, positive, and sonic damage. Nice. Hyperfocus speed once per day for 10 minutes gives you a fly speed of 100 feet, or it bumps your fly speed up to 100 feet if you already had one. You also gain a plus 20 status bonus to your fly speed for a total fly speed of 120, which is about the fly speed of most dragons in the bestiaries. It lasts for 10 minutes. While the effect lasts, you can't cast spells or activate most magic items, but, like, you can fly very fast and do a murder, which I think is what you're trying to do here anyway, so it's fine. Recurring Fear lets you use Frightful Presence once per hour instead of once per day, and Ride the Breath concentrates your breath weapon into a 120-foot line, dealing 18d6 damage of your heritage's associated damage type on a basic reflex save. You rematerialize at the other end of the area. Your movement can still trigger reactions, but like while you're a cloud of acid, I don't think swords are going to hurt you, so you're probably fine. Spell Turning Scales, as a reaction, if a spell of 7th level or lower would target you, attempt a counteract check against the triggering spell with a counteract level of 7, and a counteract modifier of your spell DC minus 10 or class DC minus 10, whichever is higher. On a success, the effect of the spell is turned back on its caster, like Spell Turning. The caster could also cast Spell Turning to turn the spell back on you, in which case it automatically succeeds. Stabilize Mass removes the clumsy condition from Empowered Mass, and yeah, that's a lot of stuff. I find a lot of times in 2nd edition Pathfinder, when I'm flipping through content, when the new stuff comes out, I just get very, very excited to play it, and this is another example of that for me. All of this stuff is really flavorful, all of this stuff is really cool, and it's nowhere near as feels bad as a lot of options to shoehorn dragons into your campaign can be. Hell, if you didn't like the Lux Eterna, there are other things included in the back of the book to help sell the story of the thing that was very powerful, which is now considerably less powerful, having to travel and work to get those things back, again, without just washing out what a party can do. Hell, honestly, you could flavor any of these as being just like a wormling dragon because they're around other people. They just get a little better at things a little bit faster than they would if they were just hanging out au naturel, growing up and stuff. Literally, I feel like I've barely scraped the book just by reading through all that. I haven't got a chance to check out any of the archetypes yet. I'm very, very soon to about to be. Bringing a dragon into any of your games is very, very easy to do, and it brings a lot of different flavor to campaigns along the way, because you theoretically might have been a 5,000-year-old being who wanted to change or wanted to get to that big power jump before their 6,000th year or what have you. You have a huge breadth of knowledge that other PC options literally would not possess. These also make for really interesting GM options as well. Everyone's real shocked when the dragon that's flying towards them suddenly rages or wild shapes or something wild like that. This gives you all the tools, all the options you need to do that, and I think that is really freaking cool. But that's all the time I have for this one. What do y'all think? Have we rolled it up? Have we got our hands on the book? Let me know down in the comments. I've got a build for one of these right around the corner, but till then, my friends, thank y'all so much for watching. We'll see you next time.